We've had Alex Newman on when he's covering international UN conferences. We've had him on to cover UN operations, the TPP, and more. And we'll hit some of that at the bottom of the hour. But we're really focusing in quite a bit this week on the war on humanity, how we're being socially engineered. We know we're being engineered, and it's not good engineering. It's wrecking ball engineering to get us out of the way, to get us out of the decision-making process, to break up our families. I played a AT&T ad where the dad is a bumbling idiot and the mother watches him with surveillance cameras and automated locks. He's basically a prisoner. And all their ads. We're going to have a special report tomorrow I'm going to go over for the nightly news. I'll air it tomorrow where, I mean, we've got more than 10 ads. I saw 10 up on a screen and showed me a few of them. Every one of them, the men are bumbling idiots. This is education. This is re-education. Kind of like Hillary's fun camps. I was telling some family this weekend about Hillary giving a speech a few months ago saying we need to send men to fun camps. And they said, she didn't say that, so I pulled the clip up. Yeah, she said that. Crimes of the educators. How utopians are using government schools to destroy America's children. Samuel Blumenfeld and Alex Newman. And Alex Newman writes for thenewamerican.com, excellent magazine, just impeccable research. He is an international journalist, educator, author, and consultant. He writes for a wide array of publications in the United States and abroad, WorldNet Daily, you name it. And he's also a frequent guest here on this broadcast. We've been on 5 or 6 times. And we really appreciate him coming on. We carry this book. So when you purchase it, you fund the InfoWar. You fund a great investigative journalist like Alex Newman, who keeps breaking huge stories and helping fight the globalist. And you get a book that you can donate to your library after you read it or give to the teachers at your local school. Because the average teacher doesn't understand why everything's failing. Well, now they want to corporatize education and bring in, quote, the reform that's just globalist standardized. As bad as the public schools are, there's a larger plan behind that as well. So crimes of the educators. A compelling case that America's public education system must undergo radical change. Ron Paul, former congressman and presidential candidate, had to say that. That's on the cover. So Alex Newman joins us. But before we go any further, obviously, Alex, the propaganda has gone from being a 10 to an 11, to quote Spinal Tap. Well, why don't you just make the whole dial, actually just go up to 10 and it's higher, but it goes to 11. They are at about 110% right now. I think they're overheating. I think it's causing a backlash, and the globalists aren't that stupid. But still, we said the bin Laden raid was fake, and now Cy Hirsch has come out and said a bunch of it's not true, and the CIA has been caught. Zero Dark 30 is, again, total fiction. It's truly over the top, as I said. And now they've just released a bunch of new fake bin Laden documents to counter all that, right as they're trying to reauthorize the Patriot Act. Senator Rand Paul, I'm told, has begun his filibuster. So we'll look into that and monitor that as it unfolds. But Rand Paul filibuster, Patriot Act renewal. This is going on right now. He took the Senate floor to filibuster the renewal of the Patriot Act, a Bush administration era law that enables it. And again, I was just told about this. I knew he was going to filibuster it. Did he already finish? Was it going on and no one covered it, so I didn't know? No, this was just sent out. Okay. He says, I've just taken to the Senate floor to begin a filibuster the Patriot Act renewal. It's time to end the NSA spying. And that was put out just a little while ago. So we have C-SPAN in there in the control room. Let's pipe some of that in here, guys, as quickly as possible. I know it's in the other control room. So we're going to do that. Thank you. Let's go ahead and go to Alex Newman now. Alex, you kind of heard that intro rant there. So much is happening in the world. I want to get into your book, but how it fits into the larger picture. What do you think about just the rollout of, yeah, you're not going to drive your car in the future. We're going to tax you. Yeah, men are bad. Families are bad. World government's good. It just seems to all be over the top now.
No question about it, Alex. And actually, so much of the stuff that you're talking about right now is directly related to what we're covering in the book. NSA spying, to give you an example. The Department of Education now, under the guise of improving education, is actually setting up massive dossiers on every student in the country in the government schools, including information that parents wouldn't imagine in their wildest dreams. We're talking political beliefs, attitudes, values, views. And, this is going to get even more extreme as they continue rolling out this crazy technology, facial symbol recognition cameras. And this is all being funded by the Department of Education. Then before you were talking about Planned Parenthood and the eugenicists and their role in eugenics. And actually, we have 2 chapters in the book dedicated to the role of eugenicists in dumbing down and really harming the Black community and Black people in this country. And it all kind of ties together. The propaganda is beginning in government schools. Now they're pushing for it earlier and earlier. And the biggest crime that we talk about in the book, they're actually preventing children from learning how to read. So you won't even be able to bypass the propaganda and get a book, get a Bible, get the Constitution, get the Declaration of Independence and read it, because they're teaching the children to read using faulty methods that have been known to be quackery since the 1840s when they were developed, this whole word method. They're trying to get rid of phonics completely out of the government schools and replace it with this whole word, look, say, cite method that literally creates a lifelong reading disability in children. Now, before John Dewey had this introduced into all the teaching colleges and then into all the government schools, America was the most literate society on the planet. Even going back to the days of the Founding Fathers, everybody knew how to read. It was essential because people needed to read their Constitution and their Bible and their history and all of that. And John Dewey, a socialist and a globalist and a humanist, set out to destroy all that for the purpose of transforming America from a free market, capitalist, free constitutional republic into a collectivist utopia. And he said that's what he was doing. So this is a gigantic criminal enterprise masquerading as a government school system, and it's deliberately dumbing down the children. And the numbers show this. The federal government did a literacy survey in 1993. They said 55% of Americans can barely read. This is crazy. My 5-year-old can read after a few weeks of reading lessons using phonics. So something is seriously rotten in the schools, and it all comes together with the globalists and the big government scheming to enslave the American people.
Investigative journalist, educator, Alex Newman joins us. And if you go back to the different banking associations and groups in the 1890s and stuff, I've seen the documents. I've covered them on air. I've seen them in books on education. They were saying, we've got too many smart people. And the robber barons said, we need to take over education and dumb these people down. And boy, have they done it.
No question about it. And if you look at John Dewey, he's the guy we really start the book with. He received millions of dollars from the Rockefeller philanthropies. This one was called the General Education Board. He got millions of dollars to take over the teaching colleges and to spread this quackery. He outlined his plan to dumb down the nation in an 1898 essay where he said, hey, little kids don't need to know how to read. That's just superfluous stuff. But change has to come gradually, because if parents realize what's going on, there's going to be a violent reaction, and it's going to jeopardize the final success of our scheming here. And
well, my grandmother was an elementary school teacher and then became the principal of a pretty big country school, and she would pay with her own money and would just bring in the phonics cards and the flashcards and would just tell the teachers, okay, we get this curriculum to get the federal money, but just do this. And they would end up educating them, just sneaking and doing it. And that was in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
And that's the same as we see today, Alex. Actually, there are plenty of teachers in the system who are very good people who understand what's going on and who are defying the federal government and the Common Core and trying to teach students properly. And what Sam and I argue in this book is that, by and large, teachers are just as much victims of this craziness as the students that are being dumbed down.
Because now they're not over, humans that are excited about learning and know how to read, and now they're dealing with a bunch of spoiled, rotten, drugged up, basically kids behaving like a barrel of monkeys.
And it's all part of the plan. I mean, this has been engineered this way. And another thing we focus on in the book, too, is the role of UNESCO in all of this. So Common Core is not happening in a vacuum. Bill Gates and the globalists financed it, and the Obama administration pushed it onto our states. But, this is happening at the global level.
This is under global treaty, and you're the expert on that. Explain how this is Agenda 21, how it's a UN UNESCO treaty. When we come back, stay there. Alex Newman, the book is excellent, Crimes of the Educators. You want how it really has happened. Very well written, very well documented. InfoWarsStore.com or Amazon.com or other systems. We suggest you get it from us. That funds the entire operation. where does it all begin? I mean, does it go back to Plato's Republic, the dumbing down of the population, or where does it all go back to?
If you look back into ancient history, you've had basically every tyrant in all of history has understood that to control and to enslave a nation, you need to control the education system. And that's one of the things Sam and I did for this book. We looked back at what the Soviets did, what the communists did, what the National Socialists did in Germany. And the pattern is very clear. Tyrants and authoritarians have always understood this. But in the United States, John Dewey was really the key figure here.
All right, stay there. We're going to come back. We're going to get some clips of Rand Paul or play some live clips as well. It's all coming up. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.tv. We're here telling you about the public plan with the documentation to turn us into a bunch of idiots. And now you see what's happening. All robber baron financed. Adolf Hitler, all of it. The NSA was doing what they're telling you about in the 70s. Samsung and everybody else is on record in their terms of service saying we're watching and listening to you and selling it for third-party marketing, so watch what you say. Google 10 years ago, hard to believe it was 2005, came out and said to shareholders, hey, we're listening to people, and if we hear a dog barking, we send dog food ads to the computer. And we sell the data that there's a dog, to dog food companies was the example. So let's get that straight. Imagine if he was up there holding up Samsung's terms of service. And I'm not picking on the South Korean company. It's a bunch of them. But they had the nerve to say, watch what you say. So see, it's light years, it's a trillion miles worse than what they're telling you. And even when stuff is out in the open, it's so over the top. I don't know what you call that phenomenon. It's so big, people can't see it. It's like saying, do you see the sky? It's like, no, because the whole thing's the sky. Do you see the whole sky? No, you can't even take in the whole sky. It's too big. I see part of it. I can't. The only way to see the whole sky is to pull back, see the whole planet, but then you only see part of the planet. See, I'm trying to get people to think here and understand how far down the rabbit hole we are. I mean, they're now talking about forced inoculation, saying your kids don't belong to you. They're coming. Alex Newman, investigative journalist, educator, expert on the globalists. You were getting into the treaty, the UN UNESCO treaties, how they set our education. That's why they're getting rid of the borders right now. That's in treaties. The TPP is why they're putting in the internet kill switch and all this. That's why the FCC just power grabbed. They're all in line with global treaties. So we're going to break in 3-4 minutes. I want to give you the floor right now to talk about that history, where we're going. But in fact, let's do that in the next segment. Let me ask you this. Where is it all going? I mean, I've got a good idea. You've studied it. What is their master plan, and how is it going for them?
The amazing thing is that we don't even have to speculate. They tell us up front what they're doing. They tell us they're creating a global government, a global society, a single world religion, basically globalist everything on steroids. And really what they're talking about is planetary totalitarianism. And they use nice words and that kind of stuff, but they're very upfront about what they're doing. Now, the media won't report it, but one of the things we did for the book was just spent, hours and days and weeks looking at primary source documents from the United Nations, from John Dewey, from UNESCO, from the Common Core people, from Bill Gates. And it's so clear where they're going with all this. It's a global totalitarian system, and it ensnares everything, but education is really at the heart of it, because if you don't have a dumbed-down population, if you don't have a population that's sufficiently indoctrinated into this nonsense, it'll never fly. And so education, we consider, is really at the heart of this globalist effort to really, just to be blunt about it, enslave the world. Without the education system, it would never be possible. Without mass-producing illiterates and collectivists, they could never build something like this. But their goal is very, very clear. The globalists themselves call it a new world order. It's not a descriptive term, but it is what they're building. It's a global totalitarian system. And they're almost ripping off the mask at this point. They think they're so far along on the road to this that there's no going back.
And when I've talked to top globalists, off record, obviously, some of them on record, they explain, Alex, the fact that you can see it means you ought to just join us. The public would tear you apart. And they're so illiterate, we just set it up for them to fail. They did the rest. The fact that we're in control says that we should be in control. And they start quoting social Darwinistic screeds. But when you talk about it, they mass produce collectivist illiterates that are arrogant and evil and are globalists themselves, spouting slogans, so you can't help but hate them, even though they're mental midgets. And then you catch yourself in a globalist perspective of them, because the hordes of these minions are dangerous, and then you're almost forced into the arms of the globalist. But I won't do that. We'll be back. We'll talk about this paradox. Stay with us. Please continue breaking down. Start at the beginning, go through it, and where we currently are. It's just so premeditated.
Absolutely, it is, Alex. Thank you very much for having me on, and thank you for everything that you do. Basically, what we think we've done with this book here is a tool to blow up the globalist scheme. If this information were more widely known, the entire edifice would collapse, because all of it rests on a dumbed-down public that can't read well, that can't do math, that can't understand anything. That
it's pretty much a confession. I mean, it's all their own criminal admission. Sorry, go ahead.
That's exactly right. What we did was we used primary sources, because we didn't want to deal with our opinion or anything like that. What we did was we looked at the primary documents, the writings of John Dewey, the UNESCO manuals on how you need to teach children pornographic sex education starting at 5 years old, how you need to teach kids all over the world using the whole word method, which we know, again, doesn't work, causes actual physical brain damage. And we can show this now with modern brain scans. You can take a look at the brain of a child who has been educated with this quackery known as whole word, and you can show that there's real brain damage there. The connections between the two sides of the brain are not working properly. A kid who learned how to read using phonics will not have that problem. Will be able to read anything. And so the real goal here, and we show this again using their own words, it all comes to Agenda 21 and UNESCO and creating this New World Order that they call it. And actually, the globalists are meeting right now at the UN Summit for Education in Korea, where they're openly telling you education is going to be a tool to create global citizens, green global citizens. And Arnie Duncan uses the same rhetoric as well. He gave a speech to UNESCO where he them about how the federal government was using the schools to turn Americans into green global citizens ready for their green jobs in the green world order. And UNESCO, he called them his global partner in all of this. And Bill Gates, the primary financier of Common Core, signed a deal with UNESCO in 2004 to develop globalized education. And it all converges at this point where humanity is totally dumbed down, totally ignorant, and very easy to control, very easy to enslave, and they can't even acquire information and knowledge independently, because
and then we're just orderly euthanized by the big Watson computers, just like the veterans are now on these don't treat lists, and it's just a formality. I mean, you can see it. It's all written. It's a plan. What is it like? Are you a parent?
I am, yeah.
I mean, I've had children. I plan to have more children. I'm going to, as I've said, double down, bet on life, be fully committed. I'm not going to give up. My ancestors didn't. They faced amazing adversity, but they could see the adversity and deal with it. The problem is just this velvet tyranny that's so creeping and wicked and sneaky and encompassing. How do you get people already in a trance who are as blind and deaf to this as Helen Keller at first, to come out of their shell and realize that you're not attacking them, trying to explain that they've been caught in a trap. You're trying to help them. Because once you realize what's really going on, it's epic. I mean, I use that word because it is. It's epic, 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 wild. I'm in a fantastic dystopian movie, but it's also utopian, and there's so much good stuff. It's not one way or the other. There's these despots that want to crap all everything. I'm sorry, that's what they're doing. And then there's people who want humanity to thrive and who love humanity. And we're just in this death battle with these people. I wish folks realize, people ask how I have so much energy. I mean, when you really read their documents and read your book, and it's just, they're so bad. And they're so creepy. And they're going to take our cars away where we can't even drive them. They're going to have forced abortion in the country under Obamacare with regulations, just like China. People say, oh, that won't happen. Yeah, and everything else wasn't going to happen either. It's all going to happen unless we start saying no. So what do we do to stop it? Where do you see all this going?
You're absolutely right, Alex. And I think, you made some key points there about waking people up. I think the facts, if people would read this book with an open mind, again, they can go to the bibliography, they can read the primary source documents themselves, and they've told us where this is all going. UNESCO, for example, several decades ago, developed what they call the World Core Curriculum. This was developed by Robert Mueller, a disciple of Alice Bailey, the founder of the Lucifer Publishing Company, who would invite these ascended master spirit.
Yeah, can't make that up. Open Luciferians. The UN's dedicated to them. They have a Lucifer chapel at the New York UN. I've been inside of it. Again, you can't even make this stuff up.
That's exactly right. And I mean, if people read Alice Bailey's book, she had an Education for the New Age, for example. She tells you we need to beat individualism out of the children. We need to crush biblical religion so we can move toward this one world, wonderful religion where the UN is going to dictate everything.
We must move away from the archaic, barbaric family structure.
Exactly. And I mean, this has been clear from the very beginning of UNESCO. Julian Huxley, the first boss of UNESCO, explained the purpose of UNESCO is to seize control of education, create a world humanist religious society where we're all going to serve this world government. And, they couldn't be more clear about it. And Bill Gates is on board. He's one of the primary financiers of things like the UN Population Fund that participates in forced abortions in China. This is all on the congressional record. Also a big financier of Planned Parenthood. And again, this comes back to the eugenicists, too. We have 2 chapters about how the eugenicists deliberately targeted blacks to dumb them down even more so than the rest of the population. And of course, the whole population has been dumbed down.
Sure, blacks were the test subject. They were the guinea pigs, and look what they've done to them.
Exactly. And, we can see the fruits of this craziness all around us. Our society is falling apart. Government is out of control. We have abortions and shootings and murders. And the globalists openly telling us we're moving toward a world government, whether we like it or not. And the only way to stop this is for people to get educated about the problem so that we can fix the problem. And people need to realize that this is not some kind of big national accident. A criminal group of educators backed by the Rockefellers, led by John Dewey, who went to the Soviet Union to study the Soviet schools and how they were mass-producing atheists and collectivists. These people set out with an agenda to dumb down the American people, strip us of our liberties. And we're now coming to the final phases of that.
Well, I don't want to romanticize Vladimir Putin because I trust him about as far as I could throw him. But they are getting together literal youth camps to get 18-year-olds to get married and have kids. They talk about eugenics. His best buddy has a TV show on national state-run TV. Sounds like me. They're telling the truth. I think they went through all that hell. They never really actually fell. But I really think Alexander Solzhenitsyn and others had a big effect on them. I know Putin said he was a fan of Solzhenitsyn, met with him a lot before he died. I know liberty, once you've gone into total tyranny, will become very alluring again. And so I know that we can reach out to people on the elite. But when we see Russia going in the opposite of where we're going, we know we're in trouble.
No kidding. And, I went to the first Global Home Education Conference in Berlin in 2012. And there was a lot of Russians there, and they told me that homeschooling is totally free and wide open in Russia. That was amazing for me because, like you said, I wouldn't trust Putin as far as I could throw him. But
you got to judge the tree by its fruits. He's promoting homeschooling.
Yeah, and
promoting masculine men, and men should be tough, and like John Wayne. I mean, it's the opposite. Men are good role models, and fathers are good. I mean, it's.
Yeah, and in the United States, we're moving toward crushing homeschooling. The government is becoming extremely hostile, and the talking heads, on MSNBC telling us that the children belong to the community, and Hillary Clinton with her village to raise a child. Homeschooling is one of the best options that parents could possibly seize upon right now. You need to get your kids out of the government school. You need to teach them to read using phonics. You need to teach them real history. You need to teach them the facts, and that's how we're going to stop this criminal enterprise.
Amazing. Alex Newman, the book, Crimes of the Educators at InfoWarsStore.com. Going back to Alex Newman. Alex, just crazy times going on. How do you think things are going for the elite? They've dumbed down a lot of people, but a lot of people are awake. A lot of governments are awake. A lot of individuals are awake. The government's, cutting fluoride out of the water now, admitting it hurts people. Glyphosate's in trouble. A lot of good stuff's happening. The UN's discredited. The Federal Reserve's in trouble. I don't see things being a bed of roses or a carpet of rose petals for the globalists. What do you see happening? I mean, they're having some big wins as well. If this was a football game, what's the score?
No, that's a good question. I think from what's going on, the globalists are accelerating their plan. And my inference from this is that they're getting nervous. They know that they got to get this all done as quickly as possible because people are waking up right and left by the millions. And once we reach a critical mass of people who are awake, this whole thing is going to come crashing down. They're going to end up in prison. And, that's serious stuff. So it looks to me like they're really dramatically accelerating their plans. If you watch, the mainstream media, it's almost pathetic. They're there blabbering and telling lies, and they know everybody watching understands that it's a lie, but they keep spewing it as if, we didn't understand and they didn't understand that we understand. So I think they're getting nervous. I think that's why we're seeing.
That's right. They're just pretending so they get their paycheck, hoping Sumner Redstone, who goes around in public with his 2 hot young girlfriends, 90-something years old, totally evil, they're just telling the old man everything's fine, basically.
Yeah, it's what it seems like. And I think as we move closer to them just totally ripping off the mask, more and more people are going to be waking up. So it's important that people have the facts, that people be educated, that people be organized in their communities, because we're going to have a great opportunity here to put a stop to all this. And if we miss it, it's going to be a disaster for humanity. But if we seize it, it would be, absolutely wonderful and amazing. So we need to be educating ourselves. We need to be praying, and we need to know the facts so that we can educate others, and so that when the opportunity presents itself, as we get closer, as more and more people wake up, we can put our foot down and say, enough of this. We're going to keep our rights. We're going to keep our nation. Thank you very much. We're going to educate our children. We're not going to let you dumb them down. And, we're not going to have your new world order. Take a hike. You're a criminal. That's enough.
Well, I got to salute you for the work you've done. Crimes of the Educators, Samuel Blumenfeld and Alex Newman, available at InfoWarsStore.com. I've only read part of the book, and basically everything in it is documented. I've learned a lot of new stuff. It's key to get out. Thank you so much. I'm going to come back in 5 minutes of Overdrive and finish some news. Again, folks, this is a huge time to be alive. This is not a game. This is a great time to shine. This is God testing us. Great job, crew.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. And now you can protect yourself from corrupt cops with the InfoWars dash cam. It's your car's black box that records all that the driver sees and hears. And introducing the Block It Pocket. It renders your phone undetectable while protecting your private data and your health. Or take back your privacy and protect your personal information by getting your very own Detractor cell phone pouch. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.